They gave me a folding chair in the back row, which was fine. I hadn't asked for a seat at the table. The meeting was in the basement of the Ridgeline County building. Drop ceiling, fluorescent lights, the smell of old coffee. Dana Whitcomb's firm had sent her out personally, which told me they understood the stakes even if she didn't. She stood at the front in a charcoal blazer, a laser pointer in one hand, a 20-slide deck behind her. The Alderton Overpass retrofit. $12 million. 18 months to completion. She made it sound inevitable. I'd been working trail maintenance in the Flathead for 3 years by then. Seasonal. Mostly. Parks coordinator let me pick up extra hours in the winters, which helped. My son Eli was 10, quick with numbers, and had his mother's laugh. A real laugh, the kind that fills a room. We lived in a rented house on Sutter Creek Road with a wood stove and a stack of library books, and enough, most weeks, a little more than enough. I raised my hand when she got to slide 14. She kept talking. I raised it again. The man beside her, a project coordinator, his lanyard said, leaned over and said something to her. She looked up, clocked me in my fleece and work pants, and gave me the kind of nod you give a dog that's wandered into the kitchen. "We'll take questions at the end," she said. "This won't keep," I said. The Alderton Overpass has a secondary anchor plate on the eastern approach. The retrofit plan doesn't account for it. It's not in the county survey because it was added in a supplemental filing in 2003. If you pour on that schedule without locating it, you'll be cutting into load-bearing infrastructure. The room was quiet for a moment. Dana Whitcomb looked at me the way people look at a crack in the ceiling. Like it's probably nothing. Like addressing it would take longer than ignoring it. "We have a full engineering team that has reviewed this structure," she said. "Thank you for your concern." "I know you do," I said. "I'm telling you the plate isn't in the documents they reviewed." Project coordinator was already moving toward my row. He wasn't unkind about it. He put a hand out toward the back wall and said, "Sir, if you want to submit a written comment." And I let him guide me there, because I wasn't going to make a scene. I had Eli at home. I had a pot of soup on the stove. I picked up my jacket off the chair and walked out into the cold. I didn't think about it much after that. Some things you say, and they land. And some things you say into a drop ceiling, and you learn to tell the difference. C was asleep when I got home. I turned the stove off, and sat for a while at the kitchen table with the wood stove going. On the shelf above the sink there was a picture of his mother, Ruth, from before she got sick. She was standing at the edge of a ridge somewhere in the Cascades with her arms out like she was measuring the wind. Eli had that same posture when he was thinking hard. I'd been watching for it for 3 years. I went to bed. I didn't think about Dana Whitcomb's overpass again that night. She thought about me, though. Apparently. What I found out later, most of it from her, some of it from the county engineer she eventually looped in, was this. Sometime around 11 that night, her project lead pulled the original 2003 supplemental filing on the Alderton structure. Found the anchor plate, exactly where I'd said it was. That was the first call. The second call came from their legal department, sometime after midnight, and it wasn't about the anchor plate at all. It was about a patent. In 2001, when I was still with Hargrove Structural in Denver, I had developed a modular load distribution bracket for suspended bridge approaches. It wasn't glamorous work, the kind of engineering that lives inside the wall, that nobody sees. It solved a problem that had been costing firms money on every retrofit they touched, and I'd filed it myself, quietly, through a small firm in Boulder. I left Hargrove 14 months later, after Ruth's diagnosis, and I didn't think about the patent much after that. There were other things to think about. What I didn't know, what I had no reason to track, was that Hargrove Structural had been licensing my bracket design for 11 years under an assumed derivative filing. Their lawyers had quietly drafted an acquisition agreement back in 2019, sent it to my last known address in Denver, and gotten no response. Because I wasn't in Denver. I was in a rented house on Sutter Creek Road, in trail maintenance, raising a boy with his mother's laugh. The patent was still mine, and Hargrove Structural's infrastructure division, Dana Whitcomb's division, had just signed a federal contract worth $47 million. That depended on it. She drove up from Missoula herself. 3 hours, early enough that she must have left before 5. Eli and I were already on the trail by 7. We liked the Ridgeback Loop on Saturday mornings, the one that climbs through the Ponderosa and comes out on a shelf of granite where, on a clear day, you can see all the way to the Mission Range. He was ahead of me by about 30 yards, picking his way over tree roots, when I heard a car pull off on the gravel below. I knew it was her before she reached the trailhead sign. She was in different clothes, a fleece now, hiking boots that were new enough to be stiff. She had a folder under her arm, and the particular expression of someone who has not slept and has spent 3 hours in a car rehearsing what they planned to say. "Mr. Merritt," she said, "Mrs. Whitcomb." She looked up the trail at Eli, then back at me. "I owe you an apology for last night," she said. "You were right about the anchor plate. We've halted the pour schedule." "Good," I said. She opened the folder. I didn't look at it yet. I watched Eli pick up a pine cone and examine it with the focused interest he gave to most things, and I waited. "You're aware of the patent situation," she said. It wasn't a question. Her lawyers had apparently sent a certified letter to the Sutter Creek Road address at 6 that morning, which is a thing lawyers do. "I'm aware of it now," I said. She took a breath. The folder had a licensing agreement in it, a fresh one, and an offer. A consulting arrangement. A number I won't repeat, but that would have changed the arithmetic of my life considerably. She explained it clearly and professionally. She was good at her job. I'd always been able to tell that, even in the drop sailing basement with the laser pointer. When she finished, I looked at the folder. Then I looked up at the trail where Eli had stopped and was waiting, hands in his pockets, patient the way his mother had been patient. "I'll sign the licensing agreement," I said. "Reasonable rate, same terms you had with the derivative filing. I'm not interested in punishing anyone." She nodded carefully, like she was waiting for the condition. "Consulting arrangement I'll pass on," I said. "I've got work I like." She glanced up the trail again. "There's one thing I want," I said. "Name it, that anchor plate concern I raised last night. I want it in writing, County Engineering, your firm. Record that a seasonal trail worker flagged it and was correct. Not my name if you'd rather not. Just that someone outside your team caught it, and it mattered." She was quiet for a moment. The Ponderosa moved in the wind above us. "I can do that," she said. "Then we're in good shape," I said. I signed the licensing agreement against the hood of her car, right there on the gravel pull-off, with a pen she produced from her jacket pocket. She shook my hand, a real handshake, both of us looking at each other straight. She'd come a long way from the folding chair in the back row. Eli appeared at the trailhead. He looked at her, then at me. "You coming?" he said. "Right behind you," I said. I handed Dana Whitcomb back her pen. She stood by her car for a moment, looking up at the shelf of granite above the tree line, and I think she was trying to understand something. How a man ends up here, on a gravel pull-off in Montana on a Saturday morning, with a signed licensing agreement, and a son, waiting on the trail, and no particular interest in being anywhere else. I don't know if she figured it out. Some things take longer than a morning. Eli was already around the first bend by the time I caught up. He handed me half a granola bar without being asked. He always carried extra, the way his mother had. And we walked the rest of the Ridgeback Loop, without saying much, the Mission Range white and clean at the edge of the world, and I thought about Ruth, and about anchor plates, and of all the things that hold without anyone ever seeing them hold. That was enough. It had always been enough.